Welcome to a huge week of indie game releases, so let's begin with Savant Ascent Remakes, previously known as the Anniversary Edition, being a remastered and expanded version of a game from 10 years ago. If you are stunned by the pixel art, don't be, since this is from D-Pad Studio, who also made Owlboy, so pixel art is their thing, but this title is more of an arcadey shoot 'em up. I played the original and enjoyed it, and the developers said that as they continued to work on remastering it, they added more and more until it became a thing of its own and should be great as well. A curious puzzle platformer is Ugly, one that is set in a grim world in which you play as a nobleman confronting past traumas. It has a mirror mechanic as its primary thing, which is used in a variety of interesting ways, and as in typical puzzle platformer fashion, adds extra mechanics and twists on the formula along the way, including some boss fights as well. I did get preview access and we'll have more on this later this week, so keep an eye out for that as well. Hey, if you made it this far, subscribe to my weekly newsletter to keep on top of all things indie games, link in the description below. I covered the Bullet Heaven spin-off of this game titled REMEDIUM Sentinels earlier this year, which was something that the developers put out while they were working on the main game, and here we are with the early access release of REMEDIUM. This is a grim twin-stick shooter set in a post-apocalyptic Renaissance setting where a deadly plague exterminated most of mankind and turned the rest into mutants. You play as one such survivor whose luck has run out, getting infected while outside the city walls, and now having to blast your way through enemies in order to find a cure. It looks pretty neat, although I'm not quite sure what the overall structure and progression will be like. I was greeted with a very pleasant surprise in my inbox the other day when I got an email from the developer of Crop Rotation, since they are based in my home country of Singapore, which is a pretty rare thing in indie games. This looks like a neat card drafting strategy game, which is inspired by the slot machine roguelite Luck Be a Landlord, but applied to agriculture and growing crops. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos previewing this as well, and it seems neat, so if you're into things like the board game Agricola, I'm sure this will be of interest.
Super Punch Raid.
One look at Thunder Ray and I'm sure you'll know its inspiration, since yes, this is of course an indie Punch-Out-like, but with an intergalactic twist, since you do want to become the best boxer in the entire universe. The art style and animations look sick, where it should be about learning your opponent's tells and to dodge or counter-attack at the right time. I do wonder to what extent this will be like Punch-Out and what they do to make it different enough for 2023, but regardless, it's a throwback worth keeping an eye on.
How seductive it is to live in peace. There could have been a bloodless Arrakis. The steady hand of my Duke, governing a confident workforce.
Bigger games begin with the 1.0 release of Dune Spice Wars, a 4X RTS from French developer Shiro Games, who have grown tremendously since the early days of Evoland, which was built off the back of the tremendously successful Northgard, so it's no surprise that they tried to apply that formula to another IP, where it seems neat and is for RTS fans.
Tartars will infest this benevolent regime, and blood will be spilled. Rivals will surround this prosperous house, and violence will ensue. Unknown forces will emerge from this bountiful land, and there will be no respite. To live in peace is a privilege of the weak, and as our strength culminates, a new age of turmoil approaches. On this day begin the Spice Wars.
The Knight Victoria gathers champions from across the land, known as MythForce.
chaos.
Another title releasing out of early access and onto consoles and Steam is MythForce, a first-person roguelite going for that Saturday morning cartoon vibes like He-Man, and they've nailed it in terms of the visuals and looks like fun with friends.
Felt it was time to drop in, see the old gang, and stab them.
Plenty of foes. I can make this work.
You walked right into my trap.
Her defense is down! Strike now! For the honor of Eldred!
I can sense evil magic gathering. Daedalus must be nearby.
Okay, we need to round up supplies so that we can send them back to the settlement. We're running out of time though, and a herd is coming. So let's split up and get this done.
From the developer of Project Winter comes The Walking Dead Betrayal, an action social deduction game in which survivors have to team up to scavenge for resources, complete objectives, and to get out alive, but of course, there are one or more traitors among you. It's an old formula applied to a licensed IP, and given the pedigree of the developer, should be a good one of these.
They'll never know what hit them. Now it's time to really get this party started.
Now we gotta go, Mander. Wait till me, Walker's here.
You guys like surprises?
I've been watching you.
Other games begin with Deceit 2, another social deduction game but with a horror twist, being the follow-up to a popular one of these.
A mysterious infection continues to spread across the globe. We should get out of here.
Get ready. Monsters are coming your way.
Guys, we gotta go. Let's get out of here!
It's happening again.
Eternights looks like a Japanese action RPG, but is from a small team which I believe is based in the US, being an, interestingly enough, action title crossed with a dating sim looking to have bits of Persona 5 with the time management aspect.
I like hanging out with you. Hang on! We need to stop it! I knew I shouldn't have done this!
Amy? Where did you go?
A title from the ironically named Cozy Game Pals is Fear the Spotlight, a lo-fi third-person survival horror title with visual inspiration from the PS1 era of games. It is set in an empty school and looks creepy as hell, so horror game fans, this one's for you.
Amy?
Another neat action roguelite that previewed well is God of Weapons, a title in which you are building a whole bunch of weapons with inventory management, so think Backpack Hero meets Vampire Survivors, since while the enemies are not as numerous, you can certainly see the inspiration beat through, and again shows how circular game development can be. Another game in the cozy city builder subgenre, following Dorf Romantic and Islanders, is the pleasant-looking Land Above, Sea Below, one about attempting to raise the height of your island to avoid it getting flooded, and looks pretty chill as well. Japanese developer Jupiter Corporation pretty much exclusively makes Picross titles and largely for Nintendo platforms only, so it's interesting to see Logiart Grimoire being a thing, one that is by all accounts the same thing, but is not bearing that name, and where this seems to have some light RPG elements in terms of leveling up shown in the trailer, and where completed puzzles serve as the crafting materials to unlock new ones, where this is one of my favourite type of puzzle games, so of course I'm interested.
The world was already gone when they arrived. Their ships hovered above us, motionless, silent. They judged us as we picked up the pieces of our past.
Developer Antonio Freire, apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong, has one of the most interesting catalogues in indie games, with his latest being No Sun to Worship, a stealth action title that looks like Splinter Cell crossed with Metal Gear, but states that it's a short, minimalist experience and should be for fans of the genre.
As we turned our heads to the sky, we witnessed the scenes of regret, soundtracked by a chorus of punishment. No sun to worship in the absence of light.
Again, I don't really know how to pronounce this, but Nour, Play With Your Food, is what I would describe as an interactive toy in which there isn't really any set objectives or goals in a gameplay kind of way, but instead you're just free to play and mess around with the physics and objects in each vignette, and I'm glad something like this can exist.
The men are exhausted and morale is rock bottom. I can't remember how long we've been here.
Like Thunder Ray covered earlier, one look at Railroads and Catacombs and you can probably guess its inspiration based on the art style alone, where this is set in a grim world similar to that of Darkest Dungeon and is also a roguelite RPG, but where the twist is that there is positioning on the grid in combat, as compared to the single lane so to speak. Your train is your home base which can be upgraded before you assemble a party and then set out on an expedition, and where your skills and abilities are in the form of upgradable cards. It looks nice and has potential, so watch out for it later this week.
Week 9 of our journey. Or is it 29? We've lost all sense of time, as if we were trapped in an endless loop. We've had to bid farewell to some companions. Some have their own way of saying goodbye.
Usually I wouldn't bother with a game like Squirrel Stapler since there isn't even a trailer up on the Steam store page, but this comes to us from David Szymanski, the developer best known for Dusk, Iron Lung and Chop Goblins, so his next title is of interest, with the description of hunt squirrels, staple them to a corpse and meet God, so it is intriguing to say the least. A charming little puzzle game is Stick to the Plan, one where you play as a dog with a love for long sticks, having to carefully maneuver it around the level to get to the end, looking kind of like Stefan's sausage roll and should be a head scratcher. An alternative take on the Vampire Survivors formula is Heretic's Fork, a defense title in which you control a central tower which blasts away at enemies from all sides. However, it is an interesting theme in which you are the manager of hell, as well as having a deck building system to upgrade your tower, so there's a curious mix of ideas and comes to us from the developer of Sapling Bygone, which is a neat Metroidvania. A title which I previewed when looking at Games of the Month is AK-xolotl, a pixel art top-down action roguelite in which you play as one of the internet's favourite creatures, but instead of cute and cuddly, are bloodthirsty instead. The AK-xolotls wield a variety of weapons and go on a rampage through the animal kingdom to kill, cook and eat the other animals, which I certainly was not expecting, but it looks like Nuclear Throne meets Blazing Beaks and could be neat. If you're an indie developer and have no idea how to start with marketing your game, get on my mailing list via the link in the description below, where I'll send you some free templates and guides soon. Similarly, another title which I previewed was Fading Afternoon, a Yakuza life sim brawler title with an atypical protagonist. You play as a man in his 40s who has just been released from prison and might now be sucked back into the life, or you could choose the peaceful path. Developer Yo is pretty good at this side-scrolling life sim thing with the Friends of Ringo Ishikawa previously, so this should be neat and took a long time to make, so I'll be interested to see the reception to this one. Here are two more titles which did not announce their release dates until after I made their preview video, so let's get going with the pixel arts RPG Wandering Sword, which has a Chinese martial arts theme. It is about as classic a tale as it can get, starring a young swordsman caught up in a feud, now having to travel the world, train and develop, recruit party members and to become a great hero. It has both real-time and turn-based combat options, which is interesting, and I'll have more to say on this later this week. Devolver Digital just announced a couple of weeks ago that a number of their titles will be delayed into next year, which makes their 2023 slate rather thin, so I suppose high hopes are being pinned on Umbrella, an action platformer from the developer of the mini Metroidvania Kato Roboto, but critically, this game stops short of calling itself a Metroidvania, so it might be more linear, but it's no less interesting, especially due to the titular weapon, so it might just join the best indie games of the year, which you can find in this video.